to speak to Marissa Fiegler.
My name is Marissa Fiegler. You wanted to speak to me?
Okay, let's discuss. Science fiction action is often sold as spectacle. Explosions, creatures, high concepts moving at full speed. But the films that last, the ones you remember, are doing something else beneath the noise. Streaming has quietly become the best place to find those films, especially on Amazon Prime Video, where big-budget blockbusters sit alongside smaller, riskier science fiction that never would have survived a traditional theatrical run. This list isn't set just about action. It sits about ideas under pressure. These are 10 science fiction action films that don't just entertain, they linger. Let's begin. And number 1, The Tomorrow War.
We are fighting a war 30 years in the future.
Is this a joke?
Our enemy is not.
Director Chris McKay, best known for the Lego Batman movie, understands that time travel stories only work when the stakes feel personal. The premise is simple and deeply unsettling. Soldiers from the year 2051 arrive in the present to draft civilians into a war that in their timeline has already been lost. Everyone knows the truth. The future is broken. They go anyway. The aliens, the white spikes, are fast, skeletal, and genuinely frightening, designed with biological logic rather than spectacle-first thinking. But the real threat here isn't extraterrestrial. It's legacy. I strongly recommend you check this one out. At number 2, Upgrade. Upgrade was made on a fraction of the budget of most films on this list, and yet it stands as one of the smartest, most viscerally satisfying sci-fi action films of the past decade. No qualifiers, no caveats. We meet Gray Trace, a mechanic in a near future drowning in technology, a world he actively rejects. Then, in a single act of violence, that resistance costs him everything. His wife is murdered, his body is left paralyzed. And then comes the offer, a spinal implant, an artificial intelligence, a voice inside his head called STEM. What unfolds looks like a familiar revenge story at first. The film knows exactly what it's echoing, and it uses that familiarity to lull you into thinking you know where this is going. Set number 3, Annihilation. When Annihilation was released, it was famously labeled too intellectual and too complicated. Studios panicked. Theatrical plans collapsed. Streaming quietly became its home, which is fitting. Directed by Alex Garland and adapted from Jeff Vandermeer's novel, the film follows Lena, a biologist who enters the Shimmer, an expanding zone where the laws of nature no longer apply. Natalie Portman plays Lena with an emotional stillness that reads as grief and resolve at the same time. Garland isn't interested in aliens as enemies. He's interested in reflection. What do we bring into the unknown? And what happens when the unknown reflects it back? This is science fiction as introspection. At number 4, Edge of Tomorrow. You might remember Edge of Tomorrow as the Tom Cruise movie where he keeps dying. That description isn't wrong, but it misses the point. Major William Cage is a PR officer, a coward, a man completely unprepared for war. He dies in his first real battle against an alien force called the Mimics. Then he wakes up at the beginning of the same day, again, and again, and again. Director Doug Liman treats the repetition not as a gimmick, but as an emotional engine. Each reset reveals something new about the war, about Cage, and about Sergeant Rita, played by Emily Blunt with absolute authority. The film is often funny. Some deaths are staged with blunt, almost absurd timing, but it never forgets what Cage is experiencing is also trauma. The loops accumulate. They cost something. That sips what makes the film linger. #5. Archive.
From the Archive Company.
The subject is Almo Julie Alice.
Archive is the kind of science fiction film that doesn't raise its voice. Directed by Gavin, the film centers on George, a scientist living in isolation at a remote research facility. Officially, he's developing artificial intelligence for a corporation. In reality, he's doing something far more personal, trying to rebuild his dead wife, not her memory, her body. What makes Archive resonate is its emotional precision. George's 3 AI creations, J1, J2, and J3, aren't just technological milestones, they're emotional entities, each increasingly aware of their own impermanence. J2 in particular slowly realizes she's being replaced, and that awareness lands with unexpected force. The film understands something crucial about artificial intelligence. The real tragedy isn't consciousness itself. It's what happens when something becomes conscious and is still treated as disposable. Definitely check this one out. At number #6, Prospect.
We'll find a way to get on.
This movie feels like a minor miracle. Made on a modest budget by first-time feature directors Christopher and Zeke, the film builds a fully realized science fiction world without ever stopping to explain it. The result is a universe that feels lived in, worn, and indifferent to the people trying to survive inside it. Set on a toxic alien moon, the story follows C, a teenage girl stranded with her dying father and forced into an uneasy alliance with a dangerous prospector played by Pedro Pascal. The technology feels outdated, patched together, unreliable. Everything creaks, everything leaks. And that fragility becomes the film's greatest strength. At its core, Prospect is a Western, a frontier story about survival, trust, and moral compromise. The tension doesn't come from grand battles, but from conversation, hesitation, and the knowledge that every choice carries weight. It's rare science fiction that feels this intimate. At number 8, Possessor. In theory, the process is efficient. In practice, it's eroding her sense of self. Andrea delivers a performance of remarkable restraint. The violence in this movie isn't stylized for pleasure. It's invasive, disorienting, and psychologically corrosive. What makes Possessor linger is its refusal to offer comfort. Identity dissolves. Boundaries collapse. The horror doesn't come from gore, but from the idea that the self is not as stable as we like to believe. It's a film that gets under your skin and stays there. At number 9, Captive State. Directed by Rupert Wyatt, the film takes place 10 years after an alien invasion that humanity lost. Earth isn't in chaos. It's organized, controlled, quietly occupied. Chicago exists under martial law, where collaborators prosper and resistance disappears. What's striking is how little the film cares about the aliens themselves. They remain mostly unseen, present through infrastructure, surveillance, and human enforcers. The focus is on the moral ecosystem of occupation, who adapts, who resists, and who pays the price when resistance fails. Captive State is patient and politically sharp, more interested in systems than spectacle. It's a film that feels more relevant with time. Finally, at number 10, Underwater.
You follow all safety protocols. These suits are dangerous.
Underwater opens without warning. No exposition, no setup. Disaster is already happening in the first 10 minutes, and the film never lets up. Directed by William Eubank, the story traps its characters in a collapsing underwater drilling station miles below the ocean's surface. The environment is hostile, escape is uncertain, survival is moment to moment. Kristen Stewart anchors the film with a performance built on physical intelligence and emotional restraint. She doesn't overplay fear or heroism. She reacts, adapts, and moves forward because stopping means dying. As the film unfolds, it becomes clear the creatures stalking the station are ancient, powerful, and furious at being disturbed. Yet, even here, Underwater stays grounded. Stewart makes every decision feel earned. You believe her survival instinct, and in a film this relentless
I'm reading
belief
Hammaker
is
Schlemmer.
everything.
They're advertising the
What
world's
all of
fastest
these
really
films
good.
share, despite wildly different budgets and styles, is intention. They're not content to just move fast and look impressive. They want you to feel something: unease, wonder, grief, momentum. And that's where science fiction action is at its best, when it understands that survival isn't just physical, it's emotional, moral, human. If you've seen some of these, maybe it's time to revisit them. If you haven't, there sits no better moment. If you enjoyed this kind of thoughtful, cinematic recommendation, consider liking the video. It helps the channel more than you might think. And if you want more lists that dig beneath the surface of genre films, subscribe. The future may be uncertain, but there are still great movies waiting.